Welcome back to this month's Roundtable. It's our end of the year show. It is December. The holidays are around the corner. As always, I'm Andreas, Senie, your host for the CRECo.ai Roundtable. Your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters, foremost experts in technology, brokerage, government policy, marketing, capital construction, and cybersecurity. As always, we have a three-part show for you. Part one, introductions, what sectors, what's happening for each of us in our respective places in the industry. Part two, we unpack and dive deep into the biggest trends, biggest shifts current. And part three, what's the one thing from each of us to you, our listeners, who we couldn't do this without. By the way, 76th episode, 3,000 tune-ins or downloads a month, 4 years in running, loving it, where we're going to give you that competitive edge. So I'm Andreas, Senie, founder, host, brokerage owner, and technology growth strategist for the nonprofit, for-profit sectors. And joining me this month and every month, I hope, going into the next year, Saul Klein, Realtor Emeritus, data advocate, Futurist, and the original real estate internet evangelist, freshly back from Paris. Saul, nice to see you. Welcome back.
Great to be back.
Yeah, stateside is the best side, right?
I enjoy it.
Yeah. Also joining us, Rebecca Carlson, founder, CEO, Carlson Integrated, past president, Nightcar, brokerage owner, all things marketing. Becca, nice to see you. Welcome. And Dan Wagner, SVP, Government Relations, all things regulation at Inland Real Estate Group of Companies. And I can't read the symbol. What's the symbol say on that cup there? Is that a Realtor cup?
It's a Santa Claus. It's Santa Claus's bottom part of his body.
Well, then I'm not doing that. Well, welcome back. And Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to everyone out there, our listeners, those that tune in. It's my favorite time of year, bar none, except I'm super busy. How are things on your end, Saul? I know you're back, and you've got Santa's bottom down there on the left with Dan. But let's start with you, Saul. You're to my right.
Yeah, so I'm busy. You know, anytime you leave town and you got to catch up, and so we started. It seems since the last show we had the NAR convention, the Expo in Anaheim, and I got to meet Dan face to face, and we had a great time sitting around talking to the NAR tax advocate, and so that was great. And then I had to leave town here last week to go to Paris for the inaugural MLS International Forum. That's really interesting. You know, we've got MLS. We're trying to destroy MLS here in this country, and we really kind of take it for granted. And here, the rest of the world, they're just kind of trying to figure out how to get MLS. And so that was interesting. And my market in San Diego is probably like most markets, at least most major markets in the United States. There's not enough inventory. The interest rates don't help any. And we're not building any more real estate. And so we're kind of waiting for interest rates to drop so the market can go crazy again.
Which they will, inevitably. Right?
Yeah.
It's cyclical. And how are things in Chicago? There, Dan and Becca. Nice to see you both.
Go ahead, Becca.
Things are great. We're in full holiday party swing. I've seen Anna Maria twice in the past 2 weeks. We certainly miss her tonight, but I've gotten to actually catch up with her in person, which is lovely as we kind of keep moving forward with business. It's not business as usual. Transaction volume is down considerably. Deals are taking longer, as everyone is acclimated with, I'm certain. But I feel what I'm feeling in the marketplace is still a positive sentiment. Like nobody's concerned or despondent. We've seen this before. We've been through many cycles, and holding hands a little bit with the younger or newer brokers who haven't gone through a cycle to make sure that they know that this is normal and it's okay.
It's time to come to work, but it sounds like both of you need to move to Connecticut because we're busy. Dan,
Becca, what's your ribbon you're wearing?
So my ribbon that I'm wearing is to support Israel and the return of the hostages. So until every hostage is home, I will be wearing a blue ribbon every single day.
Oh, God bless you.
BlueRibbonsForIsrael.org.
God bless you. You're amazing. Well, hi, everybody. I am a Christmas guy. I have my Christmas socks, my Christmas coffee mug. I'm Clark Griswold. I have 18 hours I worked to put my Christmas lights on my house, and I'm in full Christmas tilt right now. So it's all going good. Go ahead, Andre.
I was going to say, last year you had a Santa tie. So you're clearly more comfortable now. It's a year later, and you came with Santa's behind.
You know, it was one of these things that it's the new era of trying to be cool by not wearing a tie. I want to be like Saul. And you?
Well, I had a tie on yesterday. I had to take it off today. It was a brutal day. But thank you.
Saul and I did bond. We were in, and Becca, you were in Anaheim too, weren't you?
I didn't make it this year, unfortunately. I would have found you. Don't worry.
Well, Inland Real Estate hosted the commercial cocktail party, which was fun. And I hosted Saul and Evan Lydiard, who's the director of tax, all things tax, over at for breakfast. And Saul is actually better looking in person than he is on the screen. But we had a very good time, and I look forward to talking about what we learned in Anaheim. And so take it away, Andreas.
Well, no, obviously you both. I mean, outside of Connecticut being busy, where there's opportunities just on the horizon for brokers that are out there ready, willing to work. There's always young, hungry, newer companies. Companies are their own economies. They have to get bigger and smaller. You just have to be out there in front of them to take the business. And, in some instances, willing to take deal size and deal type of different caliber, right?
Right.
So we're branching out into the areas that there's opportunity, and we're happier for it, or at least we will be after the holidays, because I, like you, am all Christmas, all holiday season. I don't decorate as well as you, but I haven't been doing it as long in the same place. And and my two neighbors each have 80-foot trees lit all the way down the top, so I can't really compete with that. At least not outside. Inside, it's great, but it's been a blessing all year. As I said, the show's done great. The team, the division, brokerage is busy. Everyone's busy, and now it's time to spend time with families. So I'm just very excited. Want to hear more about Anaheim. I want to hear more about Paris. Seems like every deal I get into now, everyone's talking more about buyer broker compensation, even commercially, which is interesting. We've been dealing with it forever. But I'll leave that to you guys. You're fresh off the scene in your respective areas. What happened in Anaheim? Tell us more.
Well, Saul, it was the talk of the town. Was everybody was talking about what's happening with the wild world of the brokerage and the lawsuits, and that was on everybody's mind. And Saul, did you want to kind of go in? Because what was cool was Saul being there. He gave a big presentation about MLS, and Saul was on the cutting edge floor of making this stuff happen years and years ago. So I really, the expert of experts, Saul, why don't you kind of go into this?
Well, so it was really interesting, because to me, the first thing that kind of got my attention was that at every meeting they read an antitrust disclaimer. And so every meeting we went to, and now this has been going on for a while, but this was real apparent because you're going from meeting to meeting all day long for a week. And so we started with an antitrust disclaimer every event. A lot of people expected that there would be a lot of conversation around the litigation itself, around the strategy of NAR. And the fact is, you guys know, you can't talk about those things when you're involved in litigation. So the intent was never to talk about it. And of course, a lot of people were disappointed because they thought they were going to come and they were going to hear NAR tell them exactly why the cases were going the way they were going, and what the remedies might be and what the direction might be. But that wasn't what was spoken about at all. It was an update. Here's where we are, and here's some of the actions that are being taken, but nothing in great detail. And you're right. Rodney Ganschow asked me if I would do a presentation. He asked me about a week before the event if I would do a history of MLS, because one of the things that we lose sight of is we've been through these things before, that we've had ups and downs in MLSs. We've had antitrust lawsuits. We had the DOJ on our back. This is not new. And so if we're going to talk to people and give them some hope about where this thing might end up, we ought to just take them back and remind them of where we've come from, and about even why we're where we are today. And that reason is we changed the rules of MLS in 1996 as a consumer, to create a consumer advantage, a consumer benefit. And now we're being taken to task for the consumer benefit we created in 1996 through an offer of compensation. So it was interesting because, when you do an NAR event, you never know how many people are going to show up in the room. Now, in the old days, I was doing a NAR event at every NAR for a number of years. And so I knew we were going to fill the room because technology was brand new and nobody else was talking about it and everybody wanted to hear about it. But, MLS, that's old hat. How many people are going to come to an MLS meeting, the MLS policy meeting? It's policy. And the room was set for over 1,200 people and all the seats were full and people were standing up in the back. So it really was interesting to see how many people were now interested in hearing about MLS. And I got good feedback. Again, I had no solutions to offer, only where we had come from and why in some cases we are where we are today. But NAR is always fun. You learn a lot, and I highly recommend going to NAR meetings if you can afford to do so, if you can take the time off from what you're doing, because they're always fun. You meet people, you see old friends, you reestablish relationships, referral networks, and what you learn is incredible. And I recommend to my own association and MLS that they take staff to these meetings, because there's no better way for the staff people to really get a feel for organized real estate than to go to these events. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I always enjoy going to the NAR events.
Any chance you can to grow your network, that's our industry. It's a team sport and it's a contact sport. Outside of the marketing to get you in front of them, you got to be there, right? Or else you're not front of mind, front and center. It doesn't happen. Go ahead.
The other thing that I wanted to highlight too is that one of the big elephants in the room is kind of the controversy of some of the leadership issues at NAR, and I just have to give hats off to Tracy Casper, who's was installed as the president of NAR, and the leadership team to be able to move forward and bring people together to say, hey, we're not going away, we're here. And we're working hard for the industry, and to remind everybody that if not for the National Association of Realtors standing in the breach many times legislatively at this national level, the state level, the local levels, you'd have some really crazy legislation that would pass, from zoning to, so many different things. And it's important for people to recognize the fact that the RPAC and everything that the organized real estate does really has made a terrific impact in everyone's career. And these local associations are a big part of this reason why so many people are successful at making money and doing their thing. So I think it was nice to get back and to be able to embrace the leadership and to recognize that while we might be under attack in different areas, and in some areas, mistakes were made, and we have to acknowledge that, but we need to move forward knowing that our intentions overall as an organization, having our code, the Realtor Code of Conduct, we're providing so many great services. Our Realtor brethren are doing great, helping people, helping customers, that sometimes that gets lost in the mix. And people were they're joking. They talk about the Realtor commissions. Boy, these are high commissions. Well, somebody said, well, I wonder what trial lawyers get, a third of whatever the settlement is. So what kind of commission is that? So it's like it's you damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I feel good about the Realtor model. I feel good about our organization, and we have to stand strong and stand up for what we all believe in, and that's our Realtor world. And I know that that a lot of other folks feel the same way, and I'm proud of being a part of the National Association of Realtors and in all of our groups. I know another group that I'm a part of is the Realtors Land Institute and the Women's Council of Realtors, and all these groups provide a voice for people in their particular area of expertise. And they provide leadership opportunities. They provide networking, like Saul was talking about. I know, Becca, you're part of NICAR. So, I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff too, right?
Right. It's important to, I actually think I wrote it down, and I've written it down before, Andreas's conversation about real estate being a contact sport. We all have to come together, and there are so many careers and people impacted by every broker's job and role. When you think about like the sphere of influence of how great that is, who doesn't know a real estate broker? Anyone, like in the country. I can't imagine somebody not knowing a real estate broker. We are
They may not
that.
know their commercial broker. Call us. But anyways, go on.
I think real estate in particular is such a beautiful relationship business. Relationships that last decades and generations even, that really provide opportunity to, there's a low barrier to entry. There's an opportunity to build a life and to come, to cater to your marketplace or to grow into a new marketplace. There's so much vision and so much collaboration. It really is a fantastic industry. And I am glad to hear some of the feedback. And I heard a ton of fantastic feedback from my fellow board members who were at the NAR conference, just of how collaborative and conciliatory and how amazing and inspirational it was and continues to be, and the important ways that NAR works to protect consumers, to protect all of our spheres of influence, those rippling circles of everyone who's touched by real estate. You're absolutely right, Dan. It's critical and important and builds the economy of our country.
So Becky, you remind me of, there's an old joke we used to tell in California where, and when you're in real estate sales and a potential client would say to you, I have a friend in real estate. And of course the response then, the response was, if you live in California and you don't know someone who has a real estate, like if you don't have a friend with a real estate license, then you don't have any friends.
Also another reason to live in Connecticut.
Right. There's a lot of people with real estate licenses. And then another point is that real estate is a broad career for people. It's not just real estate sales. And I hear people talk about, it's not like, and I say about it, this is not the National Association of Real Estate Salespeople. Oh, what do I need to learn that for? I sell real estate. Yeah, this is not the National Association of Real Estate Salespeople.
Great
This
point.
is the National Association of Realtors, people interested in real estate, not just people who sell residential real estate at a certain moment in time, right? So it's a much bigger, well, I'm not any good at sales. Well, there's still lots of things you can do in real estate. I mean, lots of other categories that you can get involved in real estate beyond residential real estate sales. And what I used to say to people is actually, residential real estate sales is a great career, and in some cases it's an entry-level position. And what happens is that's where you get your foot in the door, and then you learn about all the other opportunities that are available to you in the quote real estate industry, and they go way beyond listing and selling real estate. And there are many different things you can do in real estate.
Like marketing, for instance.
Like marketing.
or development, capital financing the deals. And you're right, it's entry level. You come in and NAR gives you a path and a mentorship plan if you want it, if you need it.
Well, and you have IREM, the Institute of Real Estate Management. That's another great organization to belong to. There's so many affiliate organizations that are related to our real estate universe. It's pretty exciting. And Saul, I know that some people have talked about how the realtor world could be changed if you don't have to belong to your local association to get MLS. That you could just go directly to MLS, and you've experienced that the world won't, the sky isn't going to fall if that happens, right?
Yeah, I don't believe so. So then it's one of the things that we do know in a number of states is to access your MLS, you must be a member of the Realtor organization. But there are 4 states in particular, and others voluntarily, where it's been this way for years, where you do not have to join your local association of realtors. You don't have to be a realtor to access your MLS. So since 1978 in California, if you got a real estate license, and you do have to have a real estate license or be an appraiser, but if you had a real estate license, you could go join the MLS, the multiple listing service, without joining the Association of Realtors since 1978. And that's in the state of California. There are 3 other states because of another settlement, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, where you don't need to be a realtor to access the MLS. And yet in these 4 states, we still have a lot of realtors. As a matter of fact, in Florida, you have, and in California, you have a couple 100,000 state, right? And so people say, oh, if you don't have to join the realtor organization or if you join the MLS, and nobody's going to join the realtor organization. Well, I don't believe that, because I've been a real estate broker in California for like 48 years. And, we've always had this situation, or since as long as I can remember, just about, where you don't have to join and yet people join the association.
Right.
Why? Because they find value.
Absolutely, they find value. Thank you, Saul, for highlighting that, because that was a big issue that I ran into different people that they were worried about, and I think that really helped clears the air about that. That's good.
Well, you are who you're with, and it's a group of people dedicating to learning and doing better, and a code of ethics. And while leadership may be changing, and it probably changed in '96, and as things evolve, it will continue to change, the core beliefs are there, the foundational value.
Well,
we all abide by.
So if you go back to like 1900, when there was no MLS
and no big buck in 1900,
and there were no license laws,
yeah,
and so what people who sold real estate were scoundrels. People who sold real estate that would take net listings. I'll list it for 100,000. I'll sell it for 300,000. I'll keep 200,000 and give you one. Or I'll get an option to buy this property, and there were no license laws, and so people who sold real estate had a bad reputation, and so certain groups of people decided they want to professionalize it, and they figured out what you need to professionalize it is, number one, you need a code of ethics. So they created, from the National Association of Real Estate Exchanges, was created the National Association of Realtors, and they think you need to have a code of ethics, and you need to have a listing service. And then if you have a listing service, it needs to be with exclusive listings and not open listings. And then if you have exclusive listings as opposed to open listings, and open listings a non-exclusive listing to many people, then you're going to have somebody working for you specifically. If you've got a listing service and everybody joins the listing service, now if you're a consumer, you can list your property with one broker and everybody gets to see it. If you're a buyer, you go out to one broker and you get to see everything. Contrary, and so that's the way it works here, and we take it for granted. It's a great way. Now, I just got back from Paris, as Andreas mentioned. It was this international MLS forum, the first international MLS forum. It was sponsored by RESO, which is the Real Estate Standards Organization, and CEPI, which is the kind of like the NAR, not really, but that's what they got, the NAR of Europe, CEPI. They sponsored this thing, and in Europe, they don't, for the most part, in a couple of places they do, they don't have MLS. And they don't have MLS for a number of reasons. One is they don't have exclusive listings. And so most of it is open listing. And so the first day of the conference were people in Europe talking about real estate practices in Europe. And the second day were people to talk about the way we do it in North America, because in North America, the United States, and Canada, we have MLS. And we have exclusive listings. As a matter of fact, Brad Inman of Inman News, he kicked off the conference by telling us how frustrating it was to buy his current home in Paris. And
without the MLS.
Without an MLS, because if you sellers list, they list with a number of brokers. Why? If they only list with one broker, nobody will show their property. So they have to list with a lot of brokers so they get the exposure. And then if you're a buyer, if you want to see a lot of property, you have to go to a lot of individual brokers, because the brokers won't show other brokers' listings. And so everything is siloed. And then the portals, they can't get the information from an MLS where it's clean, it's policed. And so
Updated.
the portal full of fake listings, outdated listings. They're really lead generation. Oh, it's bait and switch. No, that property's sold, but I've got another one you'd be interested in. And so it's just amazing the difference. And yet here we are in this country, right, where we use exclusive listings. People challenge, what's the benefit of an exclusive listing? Well, if it's exclusive, it goes in the MLS, it's updated, it's policed. You only need to associate with one broker to list your property. You get maximum exposure. If you're a buyer, you only have to see one broker or agent, and you get to see everything that's in the MLS. So huge advantages that they don't have anywhere else in the world.
So quick caveat there. That's the assumption that it is in fact going on the MLS, because residential, most if not all, ends up in the MLS, but commercial in some states doesn't. 28 other listing platforms, like you said, they're not policed, it's outdated, it's lead gen, but they do exist.
Another essential element of an MLS is that you have to put all your listings in the MLS. You have to put them all in.
You don't have to syndicate them all out. You can choose to not display or not share.
Have to, in residential MLS, you have to put them all in, because if you did, and this is why commercial MLSs fail. Commercial MLSs fail because you don't have to put all your listings in. If you don't have to put all your listings in, you put your schlock stuff in there. The only stuff you'll put in there is stuff you can't sell. And so what happens when you seek, and we do have a commercial MLS, but and you can make deals out of what's in there, but know that it's the junk. And so if you really want all of us as competitors to cooperate with one another, you make us put all our listings in. And so now we got to put the good in the bad. And if we're all confident that we'll all put the good in with the bad, that makes the system work. And so a critical element for the success of MLS is you have to put in all of your listing. That's why there was all this controversy over coming soon. In a hot market, people wanted to withhold the good listings so they could sell them themselves.
Yeah.
Dual agent. And by the way, in Europe, you got a lot of dual agency too, because nobody's going to represent you if there's no way that they can be compensated. So you go to the listing agent, so the listing agent represents both sides, and a lot of detriment. So
is there a co-star? Is there a co-star in Europe?
CoStar has a presence there. I don't remember the name of the company, but they just bought a portal in Great Britain, I believe. So yes, they have an idea of going worldwide, and wow. And so I kind of see these people that want MLS in Europe. They're like, they have to be. They love the concept of MLS, and they see the benefit, and they want to take it to everybody else. And so it's not going to be easy to get MLS, because you got special interests, right? People who want to maintain and keep things siloed and keep their own business. So, but some of the big portals are CoStar, for one. They see the advantage and they understand this. Now, the one thing that you're going to need to make this work are two things: technology standards and data standards. So, one of the problems that we had in this country with MLS, we didn't build it on any type of standard. And so you had all these MLSs speaking different languages. And then when technology came along, it made it difficult to build technology solutions that worked outside of one MLS, from one MLS. And that makes it very expensive to develop software. So you need a standard. And that's what RESO does, the Real Estate Standards Organization. And so they're, pretty much in this country now, we've got MLSs working on a standard, and it's wonderful. And so now, and we used to ask this question: if you could build MLS all over again, what would you do differently? And that's the opportunity they have in Europe and the rest of the world. And the first thing we got to say to them is you begin with standards, and not only with the technology standards, but cultural standards, representation, code of ethics, exclusive listings. And these things are not things necessarily that people adopt overnight. And it's going to take that's why I say the people that came to this meeting are kind of fanatical. They're wonderful because they see the benefits of MLS. And I believe MLS is a miracle. And it just creates more think about real estate in this country. It's like almost liquid, right? You put it on the market, and within a short period of time, you can turn it into cash. Well, in the rest of the world, it doesn't work like that.
So someday we'll have a lot of other. was like here in the Chicagoland area, we have MRED. Was MRED out there with you, or were there a lot of other MLSs around?
MRED was not there, but Stellar MLS was there, which was a major MLS in Florida. So Mary Jo Callan, the CEO of Stellar, and a couple other very senior staff people from Stellar MLS were there. So there are people that understand and see that at some point in time, you're going to have a worldwide real estate industry. Right. And it will grow to that over time. And right now in North America, we've pretty much got this. And by the way, we made a lot of mistakes to get to where we are. And that was one of my points and others' points to the people in Europe was you can benefit from our mistakes. Yeah. And we're not there to tell you that the American way is the right way. We're here to help you do what you want to do, telling you what we did right and what we did wrong. Right. So you can learn from it. Maybe you can build your MLS in Europe faster than the 140 years it's taken us to build ours here in North America.
And hopefully 140 more for commercial, because let's be honest, there's still so much not on the MLS commercial. Right? And then it's not going to be on because you have independents, you have brokers, you have an opaque industry. Go ahead, Saul.
I want to take a point of personal privilege. Just one of the two things that Saul said is that history is a big deal. So it's interesting. Illinois is kind of where a lot of the National Association of Realtors obviously helped get started. And as an example, I'm the 132nd president of the Chicago Association of Realtors. So, I mean, it's been around a long time. And then another really cool part of Illinois, besides having Abraham Lincoln, Brad Inman was born and raised in Carlinville, Illinois. And Carlinville is south of Springfield. His parents ran a boutique woman's dress shop. And it's the American dream. I mean, really, if you think about it, Brad Inman didn't come from much. And boy, oh boy, he's a big success. I hats off to Brad Inman.
Yeah, we've been friends since we're arguing about it. I say 38 years. He says 40 years. And wow. He invited a group of us out to his home in Paris, which we got the story about how difficult it was to find. And it's right across the street from the Parliament building. And so out in front of, and it's real interesting to get into his house. Like, you don't know that there are houses behind these big doors. And so the Uber dropped me off, and I said, well, out in the street were all these people with machine guns, because it was right across the street from the Parliament, right? So it's like high security. And then I did find the push the buttons to get into his place, and it was it's amazing. 3 bedrooms built in like 1845, and Brad's done amazingly well over the years. A very controversial figure, and but always looking to progress, right? To move the industry forward one way or another. And so we had a good time reminiscing, talking about the old days.
That's fantastic.
Speaking of amazingly well, Becca's company, Carlson Integrated, awarded women-owned business status, was it? You just came out and got that?
Yeah, it's been an exciting WBE journey. And
WBE, that was it.
So we've been a WBE with the city of Chicago, and then went for the national status through WeBank, which is a women-owned small business, is WOSB. And so we've been awarded that, which puts us at women and minority-owned business status, which will be beneficial as we're looking at any bid opportunities with big business. It can be advantageous, and it is a huge process. I have a number of clients that are women and minority-owned businesses, and watching them go through this process, and then having gone through it myself, I have so much respect for people who are willing to, basically undress and give everything about their company to a bunch of strangers and hope to be awarded with status as a result. It's very harrowing, and it's a long process. It took 7-8 months. So it's not a quick thing, and it's something that has to be regularly reported and upkeep. I love transparency though, so it works really well. And it's me, and I have 14 women on my team, so it's not just women owned. We're actually like an all women company. Not because I wouldn't like other people who are not women, but they don't seem to show up. I don't really get it, but
well, so leadership at the associations, women-owned business, ways to grow, right? These are all paths. Go ahead. Saul,
Yeah,
you were jumping in. Go ahead. Or back.
Sorry. No, it is really exciting. And thank you for acknowledging it, Andreas, because it takes a lot of work to get to this point.
Well, they're all past presidents or current presidents of associations outside of me here on the call. You guys have all done both, right? You've gone through regulation. You've gone through business building. You've all been mentors. We've all been mentors. We've all been instructors here in one form or another. And it's ways to grow, and all of which are contact sports. Like you just said, you have to get in and show your books. You can't work in a silo or as some still do overseas under behind closed doors. Be out there and out there moving.
Saul, I will ask you: Did people talk about the insanity of American politics while you were out there?
There was a little bit of talk about that, not a whole lot.
Okay.
And
they're polite.
And so it was a conversation around how Parisians are different, and how they take things a little bit not quite as intense.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what they're saying, right? But it's because it's crazy here, but it's probably always been crazy here.
It always has been crazy. Yeah, people want to say, "Oh, I can't believe this." I mean, I think the internet and social media just makes it people more aware, but it's always been nuts. I mean, Alexander Hamilton was shot by Aaron Burr.
Yeah, these should be duels,
right? Dueled. Yeah, I mean, it's like, good Lord. But yeah, it's always been crazy. But I would highlight though. I was with Kevin McCarthy on Monday for lunch. My wife does different events, and she had him in for a big holiday event with some different people. And so we were talking to him, and my question to him was, and he's announced that he's going to resign from his position in January 1, I believe. But my question to him is, what do we expect in the future of the 1031 and what's going to happen with tax reform in 2025? And especially you have people who are talking about wanting to mark-to-market securities and to pay a tax on phantom income. And he really highlighted me. He's like, well, that whole phantom income thing is being discussed. And I saw it the next day in the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. Supreme Court has taken that up as a big discussion point of how you can tax unrealized gain. And is that something that's taxable? So that's a big thing for people to be aware of in the future. And if I recommend everybody to check out the Wall Street Journal. I get the Wall Street Journal every day, and in my opinion, it's the best thing we could read. It has the most in-depth. They still have money, and they have reporters. Your local papers are, they don't have the resources that the Wall Street Journal does. So it's a really important periodical to read.
So along the same lines of, economics and taxes, I was participated in a phone call last Wednesday from the airport, and again this morning, where the think tank that I participate in weekly believes that there's going to be 2,000 to 2,500 bank failures next year. And if not next year, because it's an election year, the following year. Dramatic. Back to the days of the RTC or 2008. We're back to where we were. Major meltdown, and something that our institutions really are not going to be able to handle. We're going to need more private capital to do it. Now, why? Primarily local and regional banks, has to do with construction financing at the local and regional level. The fact that interest rates, takeout financing rates have gone up. Buildings that once penciled don't pencil. The fact that people are working, all of these things are going to cause over 2,000 bank failures. And that's going to create, to go back to Andreas's point, huge opportunities.
That's right.
For certain people. Right. And so, and where's a great place to learn about these things as they happen? The Wall Street Journal is a great publication, right?
Well, I have this document from the Congressional Research Service, and I'll just read you one of the paragraphs in it I got for tonight. CRE and the economy, and just like what Saul said, the CRE industry relies heavily upon borrowing. So tightening credit conditions or the devaluing of commercial property used as collateral can affect the ability of builders to obtain financing for new construction. Higher borrowing costs can reduce CRE growth or increase rents for CRE occupants. In turn, losses in CRE can affect those individuals and institutions that finance CRE, which is obviously Saul's point, potentially causing further ripple effects on the economy. So it is absolutely, Saul. It's a big deal coming down the pike.
Yeah,
as big as it is, there are those preparing for it, and capital's sitting on the sideline, right? So while I'm not just going to jump to private equity because I like brokerage and I like sales, private equity's there. There is pain, but at the opposite of pain is the opportunity to take this decline on these assets and give them rebirth, redevelop, repurpose. But yes, there's just pain. Nobody's denying that. It's just a question of how do you be of service and in service with your clients, right? Inland's still buying.
Yeah, companies like Inland, I mean, Joe Cosenza of our top leaders, I mean, luckily they have the money, and they're just holding off and waiting to get those incredible deals that are going to happen. And so it's just having those experienced people who've been around. I mean, Inland's been around for 56 years. Just knowing the right time to get something is a big deal. So yeah, it's important. But we go back to the power of NAR, and I'm telling you that having the members, that we have 1.5 million members, we have all of these people that are related to each congressman and senator. That kind of network is just invaluable. And I'm praying to God that that's not going to be diminished in any way, because we do have the power of behind us, and all the Real Estate Roundtable. Everybody looks to the realtors because of our massive strength that we don't want to see that diminish. So we're doing everything we can here as a company to support NAR and support all of our associations and whatever we can do. But we need to be together. Otherwise, if you're not together, oh my gosh, it's a scary thing.
Well, and so the problems in the commercial space will spill over into the residential space.
Absolutely.
That's inevitable. So it's not like just confined to the commercial side. This is going to have a major effect as well on the residential side. And then how is that going to be handled? Where are the opportunities? People are going to have, and there will be, but it's going to be, it's not going to be as easy as we think it might be. And again, we need organizations like NAR, like our state associations, like our local associations, to help fight for the things that we know will make it better, because there are interests that are pushing us the other way.
Saul, could you drill down a little bit? Because I really like what you just brought up. Could you drill down just to talk about how directly the residential would be impacted, so people understand that?
Yeah, well, so if you look at the commercial real estate and you look at the fact that and some of this has to do with COVID and the fact that people are working from home, and the fact that people who own or who lease commercial real estate might not be renewing their leases or are walking away from their leases, and then that affects the people that have financed it, and then how many people need to live in that particular area who might work in those commercial areas. And so there's this effect. You really need to start taking a unified view of real estate. It's not industrial is separate from commercial, is separate from residential. We know this intuitively. They all depend on one another. And right. So as one happens to be affected, it's going to have effect on the others. And right. So those people that figure that out and watch for that are going to have an advantage in finding the opportunities that Andreas talks about, because they're paying attention to this broader market. That's not, and so for us in residential real estate, it's not like we can say, well, it's not us, it's the commercial side. No,
I say it all the time. It's not the commercials. Residential is going to slow down, but commercial's still got to move a bit faster, I should say. If I'm in a home, I can stay here. I can just gut through this. But if I'm a business that's struggling, to your point, I have to get smaller, or else I fail, and then I'm gone, and then I'm vacant, and that vacancy goes to the owner, and so on and so forth. And then those employees have to sell.
Well, so this spreads into a whole nother area that kind of is related, and that is that there isn't enough to sell. And the reason in the residential space there isn't enough to sell is because we have restrictions on building. And so our inventories are low for a number of reasons. And one of them is we can't build. And one of the reasons we can't build is they want us to build closer together instead of farther apart. And one of the reasons they want us to build closer together is because they don't want people driving, because there's an environment. There's all these issues that kind of tie in. And then people who have low interest rates on their loans, they don't want to move because they have to give up the interest rate on their loan. So then there's no inventory feeding into the market for that natural moving up in the residential space. And then there's the compensation side of real estate, where now we're talking about, should the seller be allowed to pay the compensation to the person that represents the buyer, and what if that goes away? And so dramatic changes. And again, will it happen in 2024, or will it wait till after the election year to really have a major impact? And that's yet to be determined. But I think some things, we're going to start seeing things going south here end of first quarter next year. But again, that always creates opportunity for people who are ready.
Right. And the noise will reduce in the industry. There are a lot of people that got into this industry when it was very easy in the last 2 years, COVID notwithstanding, that are not going to be here. They're not used to working hard. They haven't been through a dip, a recession, a cycle. And this is the cycle. And it will in fact go up and it will go down. It's just the way of the industry. Birth, death, and so on.
Yeah, part of the issue with real estate compensation, and Dan, you mentioned it, is that attorneys charge 30% to 50% of what they earn, because when they work on contingency, right? They work on contingency. Well, real estate is a contingency-based compensation structure, and people forget to talk about that. So realtors, people who sell real estate, don't get paid unless the deal closes. It's contingency. And so 5 or 6% to me is a heck of a deal when you look at what the attorneys charge when there's
absolutely.
contingency.
Amen. Amen. Yes.
I like it as a negotiation tactic. Certainly 5 to 6%. We charge 6%, but we're worth it, right? You don't discount, you don't bargain shop for your brain surgeon, and I consider commercial brokers brain surgeons, residential agents and brokers heart surgeons. These are the biggest things, the most important things in your life outside of your health and family. Your assets, right? Most expensive. Why would you discount shop?
And Andreas, I don't think we're supposed to talk about commissions of what you.
I didn't talk about commissions. Everyone else has said commissions. By the way, we also charge consulting fees, hourly. There's more than success based fees out there, right?
Yeah. So you look at the fact that real estate commissions are a contingency based. You don't get paid unless you close something.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah,
so that's
sorry.
Not,
Did
that's
I say
never,
6? I meant some random number. Thank you.
There you
go. Thank you.
That's never very efficient. And when you look at the amount that people pay, now that could all change because of the job descriptions. That's another thing people don't talk about. What's the job description of the person who sells real estate 5 years from now? What's the job description? Right. So, and then you hear sellers are now saying, because of this litigation, I don't want to pay. This is the whole basis of the litigation. I don't want to pay the person who represents my opponent. I don't want to pay that person. What's the benefit in me paying the person who represents my opponent? And the answer is, they're going to bring you more qualified buyers. They're going to jump through all the hoops to make sure the people that they bring to you are people who could actually afford to buy your property. You know, it's not easy to buy a piece of real estate. At least in California, you look at the number of contracts and disclosures that need to take place. When somebody works with the buyer, they're going to do all that work for you. If your agent has to do that work, then remember, they're your agent. And as your agent, you are responsible for acts of that agent when those acts are performed within the scope of authority. And so you could end up as a seller being sued because of something your agent does as they represent the other. You want the buyer to be represented in a real estate transaction for a number of reasons. One is liability reasons. So there's a lot of this conversation hasn't been had in a long time. And so I think that with the litigation, people are going to have to start talking about this again. Otherwise, consumers are led down a false path, which is exactly, it seems like, what happened in the Sitzer case in Missouri, where the jury was led down the wrong path. And so,
Becca, what do you you obviously are out there every day. What do you think in your experience? What do you think about all that?
It's been interesting to me to observe the behaviors and the perspectives of brokers, residential and commercial. I have clients that are both, investors and owners. I have clients that are both. I have clients that are serving and providing professional services to every aspect of the real estate transaction, third-party property management, insurance, literally everything that you can imagine, attorneys we get to work with. The overarching positives of our industry, to me, significantly outweigh the negatives. And because my experience is primarily in the commercial sector, where we do have set commission, like we have those commission conversations in advance, and everybody's represented. I expect everybody to be represented. If I talk to somebody who doesn't have an attorney, I don't actually want to talk to them. If they're raising investment funds, for instance, and they say, hey, I want to raise a fund, I say, great, who's your attorney? And if they don't have one yet, I say, you shouldn't take people's money. You can't take people's money. You're not represented. It's that same concept of ensuring representation, of ensuring professionalism within the industry. And that has been so critical. And I may or may not appropriately be applying that to residential because I'm not as knowledgeable in that field. But to me, it's the same thing. Everyone should have professional representation and professional advisors when they're making a huge business transaction. And whether you like it or not, your house is your biggest business transaction of your life. So let's think about that and build that into a process. I have so much hope. I have so much hope for our industry. And I love Saul bringing us back to that conversation of how it started and the original conversations, and then how we protect consumers by ensuring representation and ensuring transparency. To me, it's there's every element of win-win-win in the conversation, as long as we have the conversations. As long when it's antagonistic in a courtroom type setting where people are trying to have an agenda to get a certain result out of it, in that case, a lot of money, it doesn't open up the conversations that we really need to have, I guess is my point.
Well, it's saving a nickel which costs you a dime. This conversation. Everybody I know who's a major player is happy to pay brokerage fees, both sides, the whole fee, whatever it may be, because it's of service and it's valuable. And last I heard from the residential side, a homeowner that tries to do it without a broker is 18-19% off on his value. And add to that the MLS, on average, at least in our market, shows 130% above asking. I mean, that's 40% that a homeowner who tries to do it on their own doesn't see, doesn't know about. They lose it. That's saving a nickel, costing a dime, pure and simple. Pay for professionals.
I looked at a technology and a concept when I was in Paris, where so here's the premise. When somebody represents a buyer under the current paradigm, they actually are rewarded for making the buyer pay more. So the more that the buyer pays for the property, we all know this, right? Then the higher the amount of money that the person who represents the buyer earns.
That's in America too, though, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, exactly. That is it, right? Yeah. And so this construct, and maybe there is something wrong with the construct of the way in which we transact real estate. And maybe we need to look at the creation of a model that pays people for what they accomplish and for acting in your best interest. And so perhaps, and there's all kinds of caveats to this, but what if the person who represented the buyer, if the buyer said, look, here's the property, I found this property, they want this much, I think that I'm willing to pay a certain amount. And then I'm looking for an agent who can get it for me for less. And if you get it for me for less, then I'll allow you to have some percentage of the gap between what I'm willing to pay and what you can end up negotiating for me.
So a net listing in reverse on the buy side.
Kind of, but not really. right? Kind of, but not really, because it's on the gap. Actually, now if I represent the buyer, if I can get you a better price, it's in your best interest. You
But
want
isn't
me,
that your fiduciary responsibility, regardless of what your compensation is?
it is, but that doesn't mean that's what happens. That's the issue. The way that
Yeah.
the way that the structure is set up, the best interest of the buyer consumers, not necessarily the best interest of the buyer agent. Is there a way you could restrict? And yes, there are plenty of professional people that say, I'll do it for nothing because it's my fiduciary duty to get you the very best price. And if I have to throw my commission in to get,
Well, we didn't go that far. Let's back up. Oh, yeah, no.
So there are, but that's not to say because of the nature of the industry, contingency-based compensation and independent contractors, that there aren't situations where it doesn't necessarily work out in the best interest of the buyer. And so is there a way to structure, this was the idea, to structure commission on the buy side so that the person who represents the buyer is directly compensated for the amount of benefit brought to the buyer, because that's not the current structure.
Yeah, bonus for how far under the list price you can get.
Kind of, yeah.
Sort of. And we're at the top of the hour. We raced through that. It's an interesting world, right? We're going to have to each fight for our fair share. To date, anyone I've offered to pay me hourly at my rate has always gone for the success fee. So I think that will continue.
You say what? Do they accept the hourly?
And no one ever chooses I'll pay you hourly at my rate.
No, me either. I've done that. And I say here because you're going to owe me whether we close or not.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
And then they say, oh no, I think I'll go with the regular way.
Yeah. So real quick, it's the end of the year. What's the one tip you want to give our audience of over 3,000 monthly now, tune-ins and downloads for next year as they head into the season? Let's go around, wish them all well for the holiday. Saul's to my right.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you happen to celebrate.
Don't forget to pay your dues.
Yeah, pay your dues to your local association, your state association, and your national association of realtors, and look for the opportunity. And as Dan said, read the Wall Street Journal or something comparable to that. Know about what's going on, be aware, and then you'll see the opportunities when they're there, because there will be. We've been through this before, one way or another. We've seen it. So I'd say be optimistic. And the best way to be optimistic is to be informed. And so start out the year being informed.
Well said. I'm going to go with Rebecca. You're on the right of Saul.
Well, I appreciated your comment earlier, Andreas, about real estate being a contact sport. Stay in contact with people. As we end this year, whether it's holiday parties, whether it's looking at your schedule for the coming year, we all grow and our industry sectors are interdependent. Make sure you're staying in contact with your prior contacts and make new friends.
Dan over on
next. So again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Appreciate all of you. I will tell you that before this show, Andreas said that if each one of you, 3,000 people, get another person to watch or to listen and watch, he'll give each one of you a candy cane. So make sure you get. We'll be at 6,000.
Oh boy, that's they plus postage there, but
yeah,
yes,
plus postage. That's what you're gonna have to do. But no, again, the big thing is we are all blessed to wake up every day and to have this incredible country where we can do real estate in the best way we can, and we're part of the National Association of Realtors. And I'm blessed that Saul Klein is my friend, Andreas is my friend, Becca. Thank you guys so much, and all of you listening. We're all in this together. We're on this earth at this certain point in time, and we all have to work together. And let's try to do that more.
Hey, let me give something to Becca. This is something that I love. Contacts create contracts.
Ooh, love that.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, network equals net worth, and contacts create contracts. I'll go with that all day. The my parting bit, as I see more and more ChatGPT, and I've been fact checked now with ChatGPT, is we're going into a period where people will have a lot of questions because they've never been through it before. The answer is not to ask ChatGPT; it's to ask your leadership. And if you don't have leadership in front of you in your organization, to go up to NAR, go to a bigger group where there's leadership to ask, hey, how does this work? What do I do now? The worst thing you can do is fall into a trap and get into an echo chamber online and think you're headed down the right path. When in fact, people will, if you ask them, they will help you. I've asked each of you for something at some point, and we all jump to help each other. It's in our nature, especially around the holidays. So with that, don't forget to tune in every month, first Thursday of the month. The roundtable is available everywhere you get your audio and videos, podcasts, videocasts, whatever. Replays on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Please do share, rate, and review us. It really does help. And we really may send out some candy canes, or I may bulk mail them to Dan's house every day for the next 30 days. We will see. Thank you again for tuning in. Please do come back next month. Leave us a comment. I want to give a special shout out to Adam Dugan, who sent in a long comment, and we're going to address that on NAR Solutions, but offline, so we don't keep going, because we could keep going, let's be honest. Thank you to Mr. Mendoza, our show producer, for all he does. Thank you to my co-hosts. I'm grateful for you. Hope you have a great holiday rest of the year, a happy new year. And to our audience, can't wait to see you in 2024. Getting it done in 2024. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.